We'll say the prayer on page number 10. We'll say in Tibetan 2 times and after time. In English, on page number 11, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, pure bias, attachment, and anger. This crown, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha figure and offer it. May all living beings enjoy the pure land. Ino Guru Ranamenda Kami Yada
ya no so ko an samar ta stil sig yo se ne tam matin no gom jo ko se roma tonjini tari tonjini.
Good morning to you all. Welcome and thank you for joining me in today's discussion. Like before, I would like to request you all and join me in the meditation of Aryan Para mantra recitation.
Zum den de ma namo roma la shanzan lo roma de ri ha mu de da ra ye ji kan se ma de re da na don zhe ran de san la ye ge zhe la ran de da re de da da re de re so da re so da re re so da re re so Roma gjorde det, hon var 어때 가정만이 저와 로송느라 돈천로 가시지 요하더나 배주던 거 따뜻히 마 돈동들기 봐 ngawa 랑란드시 ngawa 랑란드시 매경 망티 통점기 만도정 일 그러면위 르 요베스 대달라 셰트르트 카르네 콤버샤테 콘트존이 고 큰트 종니위 셰로스 테르트 일근라 뇽 동뇽 옹와 드 게테스 켄진 라테와 마샤오스 시송데지 질 티스무소 강시 곤직정 텐킨 좀나 온라 만조나 몽와 카트 임비 신데 고식데 냥 탁와네 로종와 지라 데트르 만좀나 데닐 켄트 지시 콤버시나 신능기 게킨 강라앙 냥아와 당 오사와메 바 지시 상시 셈라 퍼트 송위 보토버 게로스 냠는 기치 졸음 쳇다바시기조시 텐텐 다왈리 다와 덤바 기르왈라 랑수르 시송소스 어떠바티다나
Okay, please go to your copy translation page 94. We're going to read from the, it starts as fifthly. And fifthly, you should pay special attention in your meditation to those people, the mere sight of whom, or the mere sound of whose names you dislike, even though they have done nothing against you. Because of this, there is a great danger of becoming angry with them. In order to acquire equanimity toward such a people, the text says, don't rely on other conditions. In general, whatever you are practicing, such as listening or contemplation, if favorable conditions are assembled, it will be successful. And if the conditions are not met, it will fail. Yet, if someone who enters into this practice and engages sincerely in mind training is able to see the lack of favorable condition, to see the lack of favorable conditions as a stepping stone, he will have no fear of external or internal obstacles and will make a great advancement towards the awakening mind. It is clear that you need steadfast behavior in the course of your practice. As the text says, transform your attitude, but maintain your natural behavior.
네, 저단데 네 가르치고는 아롱다 지속고당의 냠용을 시비 지어서 코르치 소스랑 그다 지와들와 지와데 당부 가정도 유들티 가르즈나 랑그 파지가 맞다 서코리 소소년자 탑주당 문도변 강을 때리지 돈도 매산이 때리 용다 용사지 용고레스 지들레스 나와테네 파쇼고 소소를 지가 지요 말다 소소랑 지금 미드 통용 수습능한 마케로 좀 마가로 예토만 와지 용다고 그랬어. 어떤 용 대 컨트 대지로 소소 문도비 샘당 대리지 용화 띠 또블 때니 얘네랑 지금 샘 마케요 마케와 때니 다 시당 지고라 콘트롤 지고자 때 대리그 시당 니와 같이는 종 촉촉요레스 강 최촉촉요 때다고 예걸라 용을 지고 샤워드네 때자 대리 인자다 때라 소소게 인진 토바지 냠스 어수 때리지고 때리 용지어 소소를 비 다시 당니 용화로 톱지 용화 톱소나 다 소소게니 오다 때리지게 근데 또 참마가 호트칼라랑 어떻게 종주도 말해서 리당 kell라께니 지금 꼬치 소소 경험하마라 지종 디 램바트 파송원이 살아고 용 거로 꼬치 소소 경험시마 파송은 단다 테들지 맞지 교시만 없어 가지고 소소지 샘 기다오는 지금 뭐가왜 근데 리사가 정도 근데 또블라 때는 용거 된차다 아니 디 냠용라 시비고니 아니 켄젤라 티와메 파르치니 샘 동용 탑고레 샘 전탑고레 샘 담진지 탑고레 어떻듯 소네 냠는 지고로 뜻이고 다 티버 틴다나 올 가신도 뜻을 양지 시고라.
So we remember we have discussed about among there are 5 kinds of difficult situations. As you may recall, the 4th one and before the 5th, right? There are occasions, there are times the people due to the conditions, they may unhappy about you and may accuse you against you. So partially or for whatever reason, and due to because of the way how you respond to them or react to the situation, and they may use it your own action and against you. But here in the 5th situation, the difficult situation, what happened is that here you did not do anything. You did not offend anyone. You literally didn't do anything and whatsoever against anyone. And yet, people, for whatever reason, and upon hear your name or at the first as soon as you appear, or you are very mere appearance, and you are mere presence, and somehow it just makes those people as if they have reason to against you and disapprove you, and then try to marginalize or push you out of the scene, or to make you been exclusive or excluded you from the events or the situation or the place. In such cases, we as ordinary people, we know that it is extremely hard, because first of all, we will strongly believe that the reason that we know that we haven't done anything, we just fine, we make no problem with them, and we have nothing to against them at all. However, others just don't like us and or did such a awful thing. So you're going to use you are innocent, be an innocent person, and or you didn't do anything wrong, and you will sort of strongly and rightfully will stand up and then to accuse or against those people's negative behavior. Well, that's how there are people doing in general, and how they handle such matters, from the worldly, world ethical or basically human sort of a moral ethical point of view. However, here we are talking, and the subject, their subject matter we deal here is quite advanced or the advanced level of mind training. So in this mind training program, the practice, as a practitioner or as a participant of this very mind training program, you got to not do the same thing like those worldly people in the general situation when how they responded. So even though you knew you didn't do anything, your mere presence and your appearance just a mere fact, and you have no any negative feelings or show anything negatively to others, but others still kind of very much approval and dislike your presence. So in that situation, as a practitioner, you have to, as a the trainee of this particular and highly advanced Dharma practice, you must put in the context and so try do whatever you can, not use your innocence or you being right or you being good to respond to those people's negative attitude, comments, and behavior. Rather, you should think that even though in this lifetime and here you didn't do anything, but people doing that and definitely has some kind of causes are involved. So in some cases, the causes of their disapproval and their dislikeness, or their fear, or the negative feeling towards you, it could be spring from the previous life experience or previous connections or activities you have done, and the karmas you have ever committed. So that's why, in a subtle way, that's how it runs. It comes up with the situation, and then you have to deal with it. So our perspective and our understanding must be much wider and much more insightful, and to interpret the other's negative feeling. So, in this way, what is the good thing about to adopt this attitude and to practice this kind of mind training and to involve to resolve the situations such as this one, is that the great benefit is that we will be able to not experience the frustration or the affliction and or disappointment, and then any negative feeling, because we know this, if we're not very careful, and then we could experience some kind of dismay or unpleasant feeling, and then that feeling will give us a reason to be moved to another state that is becoming angry, and then we will be become very hateful. So this is because when we feel we are right, we are innocent, and the anger or to be hateful and become angry is very much likely to be the very experience that you could you could sort of the situation you could involve in. And so therefore we must from all the time and very careful, and when we and also always be careful with the environment wherever you're going and the things events that you are part of it. So you must recognize your mental attitude and your sense, the way how you senses and others and the environment, particularly those people who are trouble, who sort of send a signal and reject your presence or dislike you. So upon to recognize that feeling of rejection, and then you must immediately try to transform and that feeling and with and then interpret that feeling with the wisdom and the right and correct understanding, and so then that will help you to avoid this kind of unpleasant situation and condition. So whereby and you can not only avoid this lifetime the negative karmas you could accumulate this lifetime, but also you can disconnect the discontinue the negative karmas and that you most likely accumulated in the previous lifetime. So then you can stay or set your mind in the state of equanimity. You can treat others from the very even, very balanced, and you can equalize everyone and the situation, and through that way, and you can free from the aversion and so stay, remain calm and be mindful.
단데라 치통 티섬 곤섬 샤와 칸당강제나 코롱 때라 땡kin로 좀나 다다다다 용데 땡kin로 만좀나 다다다다 마용하지 용구 요랬을 때 진이도 그런 직등 진이 지래다 그랬어. 옛날에 치고식 때 넌 딱반에 때라 로전 담바 좀 좀서 땡kin로 전부 만좀마 마종이나 때라 때네 지금 같은 당 시인 같은 능근 같은 때를 망보 용 그랬어. 때리 용화에나 때라 때네 수수지 냥와도 박사와지니 어따베지 톱사마르니 와사마 심신이 초에나 송아당 때니 텔라티니 문도피 남비강니 심디 셔당티알라 소파텐디게 요모케나 티송고무시 샤와티다 람루지고마 테지고 마르스 텔라 아니 냥와 텐딜라 냥와도 박사와메 바지 온 텐디게 지 강한로 체 돈은 전부지수 소소당부 맞죠 지타마도 수섬도 있고 당네 전에 지그 인지 탑사리 지가 지정도 참 좀 받지도나 델라트 넘버트네 네 맞추지 송도 강을 전부 가르치나 노는 짓와지네 지고레스 지네 네 바탈신 받지 고레스 어떠세요다.
So another aspect of the important teachings here the author tried to convey is that in general, we know either you are involved with the practice such as hearing or listening, and listening to the Dharma, or contemplating or analyzing or thinking of the Dharma, and or you are actually bring yourself and sits on the meditation cushion and sets you are in the motion of state of the meditation itself. Whichever the way you're doing, we know generally speaking, the favorable conditions are always preferred, right? Always desirable, always a good thing to have, and we also should try to create a favorable condition and make everything sort of set and ready to go. Why? Because once everything is in place and be prepared and well set, but then you will be successful. Or the thing that you wanted to be successful, the most likely can be achieved, right? So your goal can be easily achieved. For that reason, and to create the favorable condition, and so then carry on undertaking whatever the project is, in the favorable condition, but depend upon favorable condition is highly recommended and suggested, right? And approval. Even though that's the general situation, but here when you come into the practice of mind training meditation program, and you have to know that you cannot desire everything is prepared. So the conditions and either is external conditions such as externally or internally, and you must not desire or assuming the hope that everything is already prepared for you, and then there is a kind of a easy path that you can just go through. You should not have such a expectation or such a unrealistic desire, but rather you need to prepare yourself that I am in the training of or other process training of mental training, mind training meditation. So therefore, so whatever is challenges me or whatever the setback right, and the things, the events and occur, which kind of come and appears to be like obstacle, right, and the challenge to me, and I must continue. Right? I must not give up. In the name of, oh, this condition is not favorable. Look, this externally is hard, and internally I'm not fully prepared. I'm not ready for this, and let's give up for now, and let's wait until everything changes and everything is kind of approachable, easily can be executed, or to start to undertaking. So that is the wrong and attitude. That's the wrong understanding. Because again, what we're doing here is that we are actually undertaking a very serious, advanced mind training meditation program. So therefore, we do need facing and the unfavorable or unexpected obstacles and setbacks and challenges, right? And then make whatever effort we can and find a way to continue our effort and to achieve our goal our goal of to achieve the goal of the perfect the practice in the hearing or listening Dharma, and continue our practice of contemplating the Dharma, and then of course continue the meditation of the Dharma. So we must not give up and use the excuse that like in general world case situation. They all now let's forget it and let's push it away or give up until some other times. But rather you must create must be resilient and strong and stay firmly and be creative. Find a way and without losing and without discontinue your practice that involve with the process of listening and the listening of the Dharma and contemplation of Dharma and meditation on the Dharma. So in any case, that your perseverance, your resilience, and the diligence is required.
好的，他等你嘛老说，那三把相机机sem跟都光不是把等，蛮只想，另一个说吧，三个机那把，三个机那把买一本，跟等门他把没本从啦，他不是晓得，恰个我前边写呢，罗中他们只 시 원슬 총라 돈기 사출 치와시 기송 로종기 고시니 젠군 조트마롱 시톰반 양락 냠바 조버샤 시송데 근농 균착비 머땅 마마임비 와 근기 균조 버뽕샤오 젠기 트와라 딱버마샤 딱딱 마롱 시톰반 젠쇼강라 머스모 시송도 코 로종와 로종와 라페 뜻점숑 온짱 대땅 로드 바치 드냠트 셈바땅 마롤마샤오 시곰빈디우 랑톤기 틀와 마샤오 시톰바느 제오레와 탐치방 시송데 로종곰빈디우는 시디위 코르위 분속 탐질 레와 남양 마샤상 타와 땅 탐진 켐비 곰펑 랑 랑둔드레와 마샤데 성지지 곰펑 섬진 탐지지 테드 돈드니로 샤데스 섬지 반의 전도 신양 도조 비상 좀 도즈네 어다 데바티 용서나
It is clear that you need a steadfast behavior in the course of your practice. Text says, transform your attitudes, but maintain your natural behavior. At no time should your thoughts be separated from becoming acquainted with the awakening mind. There should be no sudden change in your physical and verbal conduct, and your behavior should not differ from that of ordinary people. The great Chagawa said that all our practices of mind training should be inconspicuous to the outside world, but in reality, there should be great improvement. When you have entered into the practice of mind training, you should not criticize or point out other people's faults. The text says, don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. You should give up criticizing human and inhuman beings out of spite and should not point out their mistakes. The text says, don't concern yourself with others' business. You should neither think nor say such things as I am able to cope because I am a practitioner of mind training. Otherwise, it would be impossible to deal with such a person. The fruits of your meditation should not be polluted with self-interest. The text says, give up every hope of reward. You should not expect any mundane prosperity in this life or future lives as a result of your meditation, nor should you seek the status of liberation or omniscience out of self-interest. This is because the states of enlightenment should be sought in the interest of sentient beings. Ornament for clear realization says, the awakening mind is generated for others' welfare. The wish is for perfectly accomplished enlightenment.
오늘 다 내가서 우리는 직당 아주 냠는 지용으로서 소소 삼바상집지 샘근의 공부셔야 되지 샘낭나 같이는 상치지 샘세때 맞이와 심지 탐지 dingali tower show ti chet nga samji tamji dingali tawi chet nga ngombar zo sangi ni sangi wi niwa da samji tamji la pantong ngo cheti samne dinji jene samtang mandwa jene gomgore samlo tanggo ina samlo tangai jene yang ngi show chi yo tong chi sunga tambaji na namje ro teni shlola jirji dinji yo ling choba ne sarngi cheyo mars te shoji sartu to ngi shoji ga thamba chi namba to shlo to ngyo mars sosu ga ne sem tang ni pa ya ke ni samchin ngombo chi ni ji gorma to shlo la shoji chi gyo chapdang ro chi ngo su thombo chi na ani mi chu kham tang miwa man ra cha ani solo ga kin zong kan nyok da zong kan mongbo yong gore te cha te ma chi se ne 사제 초바데 소소 셈빈당니 돈 야체보지 탑고래 때 마도 실롱 오소 통보지지요 말이 어떻게 송걸데
So the essence of the message here is quite unique, also awfully very important. That is, again, so we are here talk about the practice. We talk about how to integrating and the teaching and into our day-to-day life. In other words, how to put ourselves in the actual application. So putting yourself on the spot of the actual application of whatever the Dharma teaching and involved in this mind training meditation. So, and then remain on there and to perfect it. That is our focus. So that is our practice. And speaking technically, that our practice is bodhicitta, is awakening mind. So we must take that very aspiration, right, and that awakening mind, so marked by those two qualities and or two features that so the way one is the generator of this awakening mind is for the others' welfare, and the second is the wish for the perfectly accomplished enlightenment. Perfectly accomplished enlightenment. So that is the essence of bodhicitta, the awakening mind. So we need to take that into our consciousness and our mind, and then from the very bottom of our own heart or mind, and to generate the strong aspiration. The aspiration is that the sentient beings are suffering or enduring all kinds of suffering, and then so your understanding and then motivates you and give you the reason, and you want to do something about help out those people and make it those people be able to separate or free them from the current situation, that is the suffering, form of suffering they are experiencing. So then you are working towards this very goal, meaning free others from the suffering, and you are developing you are still on the stage of developing the skills and developing the power and to achieve the omniscient Buddha and bring yourself to the perfect Buddhahood, and then you can address and then approach each individual accordingly and skillfully and effectively. Since you are right now just only on the process of achieving this highest enlightened goal, you haven't yet reached perfect this practice. So therefore, even you are dedicated very fully heartedly, and you are 100% engaging in this very practice, meaning that you are trying to do whatever you can to try to free others from suffering, And or in order to achieve this goal, you are developing the skill and the strength, the power. So and achieve this towards to achieve your essential goal. And while you're on this process, right, and you must carefully managing your own practice. You have to skillfully and carry out your practice, right? Not to showing or bragging and or make it as public and so visible and or brought up, you know, and use whatever the occasions or situation and say and make it the statements or to kind of give others the sense or inform others that you are dealing or engaging in the mind training meditation. So therefore, you try to reveal your the very sacred spiritual the practice, you know, share this with others or publicly announce or make it apparent and let others know. And in kind of a return, and either is directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously, try to gain some kind of recognition and or respect. You must give up all these hopes and not make it, you know, your very practice of mind training meditation as something and to get the benefits that is a part of the mundane, or you avoid the mundane the benefits. And rather, you must keep that you know, very privately and secretly continue and your practices. Why we need our mind training practice to keep it a secret and or reserved for ourselves and manage it, maintain it at a very private level. That is because while you are still haven't yet perfect your practice, haven't yet achieved the goal. You know, if you make it so transparent and or publicly announced, then there are people, because people are after all very different, and so there are people who would be out of misunderstanding or out of you know, some kind of very strange reason, and or due to their unique situation and personality and life experience and background, or the ideology, the orientation, and so whatever the sets, mindsets, and they may, you know, even you are doing the great thing and you are doing something that is going to be benefits all, and or your very actions involved with everyone's interest. But those people who may create the obstacles and even they take action against you and make your practice very difficult or interrupt your practice. So for that reason, as practitioners of this mind training meditation program, and you must make a steady, fast effort and continue make a progress without give up interruption. But at the same time, you must keep that secretly and privately. And even if you achieve the highest states of advanced level and at public in the public or publicly, you must keep that very inwardly and keep it just for yourself and acting like everyone out there. You know, so not make yourself someone who is unique or someone who is very special.
Otter, that ni you want the cars na. Chetang lang zo, yin the nyamlan jing zo so rang rangchun na tagni samla samlo sosu shashi kalung tamchu karching de yang tang gore de zang sosu jubji tang gore de ma to ane jen kyun na tagni jen di ka ko de de ko ka ngal chi de ngal de chi ma song se de chi ka ro jen la yar chi ni jen kyun jang jang la tagni tenki manzu ba changma jen gola ya to ga chamlo tang de chi de chi yo ma se jen shok la masumo di rang tenki manzu rang chone manju mala ngin ji ni te mutun basu chi gor ma tu jen chi la khaya ne jen chi command ne tende sam tang da na kati na ta kang de li tet ko mar su da ko lo jong ala la par sam ta shi on kyang te ten dor tu bi chi nyam sem sem tong maror ma shawo o te sa da tin sa so ga so rang ni ko kyon te so rang ni ki ji tang ne yar ji tang tu gor ma tu so rang ni ko manju ma ta ta sama jen chi la khati ni ti jen ki kyun jang jang man de ma tu she da na te zo thwa yo mar kang te li nam tu thwa yo mar se go te sa ta so rang ni ko ba su chi ne rang ni ni so rang ni kang te li tu thwa chi go re ze ne chi man de sama jen la kha yo mar chi tang ne jen la tin tin bi ni wa ta yor ti na ta chi de jen gi chi tang da chang dang she yo mar se o te go ko bin jiu rang du ki chwa mar sha o se o te sa ta 어떤 삽지지다 잔기 견나 마저 랑니 맞죠 지고 얼시와 다 니와데 저 고명 소 상치지 셈도 요 게르브 지용소 직든 너그 지금 다 천년 딱 용나서도 저농조 용나서도 말라 지금 시지 첨보를 직든 도 코르이체도 돈도 여와나 랑돈 돈도 랑돈 차선도 된다 될라지 요 랑돈도 빵네 연돈도 지고 장아도 타바 첨보라면서 상치 셈세도 전기 돈 쓰고 전기 돈도 지고 연돈 탈와당 탐지 챔비 돈도 모토와 지고 그래서 공지와한테 탈와당 탐지 챔비 공부 토비체디 섬진 탐지 능력이 좋아당 디체도 당원을 좀 상이기 있는데 상로도 당고래 딘사다 셈기 그런 거 챙이 셈기 받는 전도시 양당 좀 상진 도즈네 셈기 받에 가라 소 전기 돈도 셈기 받에 전기 돈도 셈기네 가르치나 디체도 셈진 탐지 능력이 좋이치 니와도 토비체도 마 상이기 있는 거로 마 기부 요같이 야 탐지 챔비 공부 도서는 되게 시트 세기요 말에 뜻이 어떤 놀디나
So that's the point number one, and the point number two. So let's just remind you that the point one is we talked about your practice of mind training meditation privately and secretly. While you are prior to the perfection, you achieved or become finally successfully attend and to achieve the actual attainment. So, and then the second point here we need to know is that whatever the case, so we must correct one serious mistake. That mistake is not to point out our finger to others.
It's 11 o'clock.
Criticize others and blame on others and complain about others, but rather we must reverse the sort of our the course of our reaction towards anything that is undesirable and that makes us feel hard or being challenged. So our general attitude is that we are very open, and actually it's a kind of all the time. We can we will easily point out our finger to others and criticize others because we can find the faults from other side, and we can easily establish some kind of cases against others and or complain about and to find an excuse and make ourselves feel good, or to prove that we are indeed innocent and we did do nothing wrong. But while that is the general worldly basic attitude or moral and ethical sort of behavior or the here, and we must raise our bar, okay, up higher, and then sort of bring ourselves in a new levels of discipline, the self-discipline. So that discipline is now the courses of this relationship in terms of the things are not going well, or it didn't happen the way as you expected. So instead of previously or other people who easily point their fingers and find established cases and to against others and criticize others. Now here, the course is reversed. That means, so instead of pointing out the finger at others, criticize others and establish some kind of cases to purify, to excuse yourself and to prove that you are indeed innocent, others are totally wrong, indeed it was bad. Now you must point out the finger to yourself and examine your own behavior, your verbal and physical and the action, and as well as your basic mental attitude. So if there's anything went wrong or undesirable and something that is not pleasant, so you must immediately pause and ask yourself, is there something wrong with me? Is there something I did wrong? So what I did, how I did that. So you have to, yes, I'm very critical and about your own self, your own mental and mindset, your motivation, and your basic mental attitude, your senses, your feelings, and and then make sure that everything is somehow and not to point out the other people and think that they are wrong, but in fact find that you are indeed fail to and doing something that's rightfully or didn't prepare well, or you wasn't pay attention and you was not active or attentive enough, or it was not the sense of your mind, your motivation is somehow imperfect, whatever. So find your own the faults at your own end, and then make sure you make no excuse and then accuse others. So this is a very important practice. Okay, that's the second point is equally as important as before. So this way, and you will have the reason and to make a progress, and you have the reason to keep doing the good thing and make an effort and to purify your own behavior and purify your own mental attitude. So in other words, instead of correct others, now you're not going to do that. Okay, instead you correct yourself, right? So our reason for not make effort to correct others, but rather to find reason to correct ourselves is this. Basically, whatever, and so how hard you try to correct others, the number of mistakes or corrections that you need to achieve is infinite. Okay, you cannot really correct others, people on their faults and their mistakes. It is because it is just inexhaustible. In other words, there's the countless of them out there. As long as you try to point the fingers to others and find the faults and mistakes others, right? And then use it for excuse for yourself, and then that is an unachievable goal to correct others and then overcome the problem. So that is the reason why. So instead of correct others, and you correct yourself. Instead discipline others, you do the self-discipline. So so this way, and you will achieve, and perfect your internal and your on the practice, right? Having said that, one thing we are not saying that we not depend on others. Our practice doesn't need to rely others at all, or nothing to do with others' attitude or the external condition at all. We're not saying that. We are saying that even though others are important, right, and our relationship with others, our practice with others is very important, but we cannot hope take others as a sort of the only way or the most important way to improve our own practice. Right? If you think that your improvement, the perfections of your own practice is entirely dependent upon others, how others change their attitude, their behavior, and then make you be able to perfect your own the behavior and the behavior, and that is wrong. So that's we are here saying that you should not never hope that others change themselves, or by pointing out the others' faults, then hope that they can correct themselves, then make yourself easier, and thereby you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So if you totally depend upon relying on others, and then you got very wrong. Okay, so that's how to know. And then the third point, I'm trying to interpret it based on the text, which says that our practice, whatever the way, and we must keep in our mind is that so do not, in any situation, do not let the mundane desire or mundane attitude, a mundane sort of earthly oriented interest to dictate or hijack the course of our very practice or the nature of our practice. This is because if you not pay very close attention and examine your practice from time to time, even from moment to moment, and what happens is that along the way, while you are making progress, right, and you're making good improvements, and you can easily be fooled or be trapped and fell in the traps of new levels of world desire and a world mundane and interest. That is to say, now you feel good, and you see you are making progress, and your meditation and the levels of your experience of the spiritual practice, everything seems to sound good, and you're happy about it. But if you, again, not closely pay attention, and you could be unexpectedly lead to seeking for some kind of recognition, some kind of fame, or the new and the status or socially sort of appreciated benefits. You could easily be lead towards that direction, or to bring to that kind of a wrong way. And so that basically then will turn all your the nature of your entire mind training meditation as upside down. So what I mean by upside down is because essentially from the very beginning, our practice is aimed not seeking for the self-interest, not for the self the purpose of ourself, the benefits of ourselves, but rather is the very first moment we start taking this action and engaging in the mind training meditation is for the sake of others, meaning that we are aimed to attain Buddhahood, why we want to attend Buddhahood again for the sake of others. So therefore, there shouldn't be any self-interest and self-benefits involved at all. And as the text, the ornament for the clear realization in the, said, so the awakening mind, right? That's our focus of our practice, our meditation, the hardcore of the mind training meditation. That is what generates, right? The very purpose, and we wanted to awakening mind to be generated is for the others' welfare and not for self. And so, and our focus is always and thereby the wish to and perfect achieve accomplish enlightenment. But why we want to accomplish the enlightenment and for not for ourselves but for the sake of all sentient beings. And so this is something we have to be aware of from time to time.
아, 가만 정화도 못하니 좋아요는 좋아질지라.
So now we have the time, and do any of you have any questions? Oh, yeah.
请坐。
我就是嘞，
那
你主要是你主要所有的嘛，那个达到是因为，你投资我就这种，你主要参用到这种呢，大家가장 큰 무슨 처음 붙수 콘수수수게 다음에 싸웠던 게 뭐야? 그래서 콘수 욕도 주잖아. 싸웠던데 그 지진이 노출이냐 나 야지네 나 쳇네 니 다던 this 말에 세이도아 this chashan ni this do ji tui bina ne this strong bina continue buga ne ji seuji dewa ji ti ani peshana 욕도 지정은 나는 투요 말이 이미 여기 셔머를 투요 되니까 콘수가 되시제야 야마나 나 오고는 나 자신가 주 된기고 인천 자신가 주 양된기고를 세디 콘수 나 자신가 주 된기고 말에 이미 싸웠던 말을 세이가 미드스 니고 투리나 근데 아니지디 야부수지
그래 라서 대 이건 좋아요. 근데 아까 같이 여정다 되는 게
hello. So I just asked a question that came to me instantly. And talking about what we learned today, just thinking about how a lot of young people these days, in problems, there's a lot of individuality. So sometimes when there is an issue, there's a lot of apathy towards finding an answer, and it's like, I don't care if I'm at fault. That's not how I view it, or that's not the way I think it. It's a type of typical answer that you'll hear. And I was thinking, well, like if you're in a situation where you're trying to deal with someone who thinks this way or views the world this way, how do you best, converse or resolve the issue? You can say, I get 50%, but you have like 50% of fault in your hand, and then they're like, no, I'm not wrong. That's not how I view the issue. So dealing with those types of people, like what can we use in this practice to apply in those situations? Was my question.
Okay. 그래, 직당 안에 직딩 감드는 심진 미완하 조변사 안에 지 정말 딱딱 용터다 갈카오르와 갈카오르 따이나 파쇼들라 강아지 요다즈 요나 요다즈 소송원이 지 교진이 성토와지나 소송 갱키니 상이 탑심 땅터와는 또 소소가 학습 땅안에 사마남 땅까지나 아니 델라 펜토지 어떻게 따야돼 딱까지 좀 맞토와디나 바쇼텔라다나 요다도 상 맞토비가나 요다도 전부 차가요니까요나 소소 장보진이 디나네 파 요다나 마츠와자 답지고래 뜻비 대사다 주지치모는 까디 지스요나네 텔라마가치샤 까디 지스면나네 텔라마가치 펜즈니 그 지토와도 소소 지나 펜토와도 용고나 소르파 장보진이 때 샤워도 파 르트와 맞추지 때라니 심바진들 소소 같이 요 말. 같이 못와지나 따텔라베 어떻게 잡니다. 다치도 공짜네. 저 소소 등나 파 홍중 좀 파 장보지 카드 타고 그래서 어떻든 냄과 제일 그런 거. 라. 지총나나 지땅아도 지쪽 내가 지송을 지총나 요라 망보요. 다다디나나 갔다 배차나 시게도 지총나는 요라 망보요. 용도잖아. 같이나 요다 참 파쇼네레 삼로 떠나 아주 놓치래도 소송이라는 요다 요르데 강은 요르 요다 조 요르 거 소나 동부 소소를 심지지 소송원이 전에 대상마를 소소 요다데 그 매와이나 어다 파쇼는 대신로 내당 데즈르다 데즈르 파드시 잡산 노다 콘데시 잡는 미 카실라 삼로 리파요 보는 남선 데시데 코르치네오 사마지로 태요 꼴찌 존는 이로 태면 다든지 동너지 요르데 도노지 전부 다 도노지 자던 요마도 가지고 될 숙장은 소소 등이 요마도 잠바까기요 파쇼는 이로 태면서 갔다는 가지고 숙장 파쇼도 공부를 그래 이묘로 치료 되니 가고 공부하잖아 직접 그런 이로 전지경 거 이로 테스트 버지는 그런 다 답시 메어로 주로 된저 성지 좀 된데 샘지 탐지도 돈도 상기니 깔레 망부 겨울도 단다 샘지 망부 하더라네 저와 꼭들에 네 가르치니 샘지 탐지도 상기나 샘지 망부 하다고 성지 탐지 시험 바로 근데 샘지 로마지 가르지나 어때 샘지 소소 레 남바나 좀 소소 때 소소랑이 소소랑이 뭔지 요마도 쟁그 때지네 타치도 여터와지 말해야지 따뜻 좋았디 용어 리경 소소 용거마도 젠지크 상교도 젠지크 성지 좀 된다기 저것도 성지 랭가를 잡나 저런 제 덴바레 nga 성지 샘지 탐지도 성지 레드이나 네 샘지 탐지 능력도 락바근데 렌트와는 mendu스 아니 녹발라 공로 치료 근데 치아니 낙관도 정말로 되는이 도구만 되겠어 빅파세트 나라 샘 용이 접도 좀 다 가르치고 난 친이 담바도 도르징이 말은 그 냠용 냠슬론의 깔리 잡는 장진 디우토피에 람동 연든 캠바 차동들 들들이 용을 람직다니 저거지 디 람텔라 코런 시가이나 들리 타와 탐지 캠비 토피 람카등이 있다니 저거지 어떻게 대식 뭐시 코런도 바리스 뜻 다른 이런 모양이 이런 거다 어떻게 무슨 있다 단다 큐로 총총을 단다 갈리야 뭐 그래 안 낭미지만 아니 그거 뭐 이렇게 거로 아니 이나 야고래 저때 낭제 돈이 좀 판도 좀 보여
This is such a good question, but we have to discuss this kind of simple but rather complicated situation in the general term, because cases or situations are variance. This is a very question of the great variance. So in general, what happened is that we have to acknowledge, admit that one reality, that is everybody is unique and everybody has their own sort of a very specialized personality, something that's just unique to that very individual. So therefore, and the people we have to deal with and we can think of is a variance, and it's variations, and so we have to acknowledge that and think about it, and they have to know where we are, what kind of situation, and we are actually involved. So if you keep that in perspective, okay, and bear in your mind, then at the actual day-to-day life, when you see there are people and who somehow got things very wrong, and they are very mistaken about a certain thing. So you are the one who clearly know, and that is something that's the outcome of that person's action or behavior, and would not produce a favorable outcome and please them, but rather would against them. So you're the one clearly see that, right? And then you also have the compassion, right? Want that person or them or him or her and not continue make the same mistake or hold the same misview. Well, here's the key, right? You're compassionate and you know the situation and you know what's how wrong that person. But you must know whether you are able to very skillfully, right? And very cleverly, creatively, and to bring the person to the point, right? Or make the cases, or be able to explain, or show, right? And point out that they're very mistaken, either is a view or behavior and a dangerous outcome that person is probably has to face in sooner or later. Can you do that? Do you have such a skill? Okay? Are you do you have such a creative and ability, right? Or can find a very special way, in a very creative way, a special way and creatively, and then help out. If you can, now that you could approach, you should approach, you have good motivation, you see the right thing. And now you are very skillful, right? And you're clever, you're very creative. You have a creative way to solve the problem. So go ahead and do it, right? This way, you know, it will benefit others, which is a good thing. However, people, again, as we talked about, each individual has their unique situation, unique growing experience, grow up experiences, and mental attitude, beliefs, and sets of worldview, philosophies, and so on and so forth. So they're very different. And technically, you know, so in the Buddhism, we call it karma. So each individual's the trait of their life, life experiences, and the understanding about life is very different. So therefore, if you feel right, you are not skillful, or you don't have the sense of skill, and you cannot create the effective tools or ways, right, and help those people or him or her, and then if you truly feel that you lack of such a skill and such a capacity, then you must keep observing and or keep a distance from those people. You should not go jumping in, because once you jump in, you will now, instead of help others, you actually create more troubles for others, right? And more than that, so not only you only create more troubles for others, you yourself now become the very trouble of those people, right? So you multiply increase the levels of the trouble, right? And so that's why, and keep a distance, observing until you find the skill, a moment of the right timing, and so just not put yourself into the actual and very complicated situation itself. And that's probably good strategy. And also, you must be careful, not you know, and unless you are very sort of good-hearted, your good heart, and force you and jumping into the actual situation without knowing the outcome, without know any special way to find the problem, to find the way to solve the problem. So, like we repeatedly hear from Shantideva's the Bodhicitta Avatarya, and all the Bodhisattvas guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, it says, if there is a way, you can overcome the problem, and then what's the use of the worry? If there is no way to resolve the problem, what the use of the unhappy, right? Not happy about it. So the essence of this message is that if you can, right, you know, and jumping in and do something about it. If you don't know, if you have no idea, and then you should not torture yourself and make yourself awful and bad, because you know you see the situation is bad, but at the same time and you have no solution. So therefore, then you just let it go, right? Let it go, and because our goal is to help out, not add more sufferings, add more problems to those people. So that's fundamentally is the thing. So yes, so we have to keep it in the distance and not take a partake in anything those people involved until we find a solution and until we're able to free themselves, free those people, him or her, from the actual trouble itself. I guess so. Not just keep a physically distance from those people, but also we must keep our mouth closed, meaning make no comments and make no any remarks about those people, but keep it quiet, right? So indeed, in the situations and in the community, in the society, so there are times we cannot really do anything about it, right? But it doesn't mean that we've been have no empathy and or not try. But the try has to be very clever, creative, and can address the problem itself and resolve the problem itself, but not add more. So there are times if you find that it's a time, it's a chance, and you can explain, and yeah, go ahead, you can explain and share your opinions and try to help those people figure out how wrong or at what point they got themselves very wrong, mistaken about the certain thing, right? And there are chances, and those who are kind of partially open-minded or intelligent and not completely obsessed to their sense of point of view or their position, they may able to listen to you or open to your opinion, your comments, and then they can think about what you say, and then chances are they can make corrections, right? But there are people, often you will find those people like a rock, right? And their attitude, their belief about what they are, what they think, is as strong as like a rock. If those people who like a rock, then what you can do about it, other than leave them alone, right? And until they change their mind. There are sometimes, you leave them alone. In fact, there's a hope, and you can make them correct themselves, right? Instead of jumping in. So other thing we need to keep aside, keep in our mind is in any situation, we must always acknowledge, remind ourselves our ability in terms of helping others and resolve the problems for others right away is rather very limited. Okay, rather is very limited. We can take the Buddha and as the perfect example. Buddha, we know, is an enlightened being and is perfected in the he achieved the perfection of wisdom and absolutely compassionate and absolutely skillful. Yet sentient beings are suffering. There are plenty and countless number of people are still suffering, still and trapped in the very repeated trapped in the wells of samsara. So therefore, people ask the question: if a Buddha is as great as the Buddhists who claim and the great being, compassionate being, and omniscient being, how come there's still suffering going on? Right? To answer this question, we know that karma is a unique. Karma plays a very important role, and everybody has the unique karma. So, in fact, there's everybody due to their unique karma and their unique karmical and outcomes. So therefore, and it's individually they are differ from one to another. So that's also why Buddha said that we are our own protector. We are also our own enemy. So our experience can tell us it is true. if we do follow the Dharma, do things correctly, and then we can save ourselves. We can become the master of our own destiny, and vice versa. And if we pay no attention and do nothing about it, and then we could destroy our own the favorable outcomes of the future life. So, and for this very reason, and karma is playing such an important role. So yeah, your karma, your action can lead you to become the Buddha yourself and the enlightened one yourself. Your own action could lead you into be very confused and a very fool and a great fool yourself. Right? Furthermore, Buddha also said, and even though he is a very compassionate, skillful, and omniscient one, but he said, I cannot wipe out or take out the suffering from each individual's mind, the mind continuum. Right? I cannot wash out the sufferings of the negative karmas that the individually the sentient beings who created. The only thing with a promise that he would do can be absolutely helpful, can help out, is that by show the path, show the right path, by share his enlightened experience and point in the right direction, and then so individually, if anyone who willing and who make effort, then Buddha promise who would again attend the enlightened, become an enlightened one, and be the one who has achieved the omniscience and perfectly attended the state of nirvana. So based on all those conversations, we know that so Buddha is the role of Buddha play, right, in the kind of very complicated situations in our life, in the world in general, is that to point out the right direction and teach others, but not jumping in and to replace others, people's action, replace others and do things for them, rather show or point out and the right direction and let them overcome that very problem. So we need to consider about this, and while we were involved in difficult situations, and keep all this in the context. So that's very important.
Yeah, that's all.
I had a question, Geshikunda. You had mentioned earlier the importance of keeping the details of the practice private or secret. And I can see the benefit of that, especially in the general population, if you're around other people who aren't practicing Buddhists. But I wondered about when you're having conversations with close Dharma friends or fellow practitioners, is it okay to talk about your practice in a small setting with other Dharma practitioners? I'm thinking of our kitchen conversations when we were meeting. And every once in a while, it wouldn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, details would come up, and it would be beneficial for me especially early on as a new practitioner. It would give me some things to think about and to explore, and it was helpful. So I'm wondering what your views are on discussing practice I guess techniques among Dharma friends. What is your viewpoint on that?
Mm-hmm.
对，我的这家人补充补充。
그래, 너도
이거 아니 난去年 지캔다 돈이 지캔 같이 타서나라 자pon도 가봐 타다지와 이제 우리나 수수 냠냠들 종송 수수가 다 총하나 뭐이나 지고하나 뭐이나 네 라송스니 네 저나 보면 책 송송하다 이 수수지 니들이 시송한데 인세하게 말레니 니 아까지 자나야 그래서 Aina na dunde sudo nyam so phasa di chiro nam phasa khapani jiya na ang sudo lala taya so da torin jiya de yo ba se ni tira ni chiro nam phasa na ni di ka de jiga de ka da thanto de yo be da wo de na ka de be na ka ma da de ji ge shi do di phasa be ya cha lu ba
근데 지금 아주 센텀바 따와텀 바스걸 센텀바 따와텀 바스나 또 대진에 소소고지 쇼로 참아 감수 식바이나 텔레 찍지라 랍룸로 땅내 야기 땅라 판도 열어주라 연또 마야 가시기 때 지 랍루 땅들라 소소고지 ngajil kini lang ne phashola kachan ro te yang phashola ngam ro ro te ta man thamba ro te na te utski jawen ro o te na ta nyomu ki ji chawol te da te chna kusum chne ya ta te ditsu tang thambe ka so so ro long je ga ne ka tang thambe ngi nam so phasho chi she go ne phasho chi nyan sa de la sha sa de lan damba yo na ko chum go pha she na kula phan tu yong go damba me na utski jaw na phasho te control lang ma ke yo ne control lang te ne chna 만들어 때 요다랑 찾았대 자다 근데 그 임치 강서 식 임치인데 강서 선발라 가당 쳐놓고 진짜 되고요 말스 때도 아니 조 감독 미와라 때는 지금 내 땅 내올라 때는 시기 단다도 배자능나다고 직당 안에 아주이나 냠는지나 상화지니 냠는지나 샘능아 야치와 지고르마도 시공수 통보제 때 있고요 말에 뜻뜻이고 또도 되죠.
Okay. So we have this quick answer is that like we have a saying generally in Tibetan, and something but that means the harmonious in mind setting and the harmonious with the point of view. So what I mean is when you meet someone and you find that as far as the mind setting or the world view is concerned, and so there is a harmony going on. So there is a common ground. You are, and the view between you and the others are agreeable. Right? That's number one thing. Or that the mind setting is the same or closer or is agreeable. Another is the world view or the point of view, which is harmony, in harmony or the harmony with. That means, so whatever the philosophical view or the tenets and or regarding very detailed, important and practice of the practice, right? The point of view and that's involved with your own practice. So your view with regarding to the accuracy or effectiveness, whatever involved, if a kind of agreeable and about the same, right? And then, of course, the situation we talked about, keep it private and just keep it to yourself and keep it secretly. That's not apply, right? Why? Because over there you have to open the according to situation share and talk about it, ask the questions, and try to get more and right and learn more or help out others. This is the best of the condition that the mind setting, as far as the mind setting is concerned, you and others are calm, and there's common ground between you and others. As far as the world view or the specific philosophical viewpoint and regarding your practice is also agreeable, and then yes, so you need to go approach and talk about it and use it and use the opportunity and to improve yourself and others. But even within the Dharma group, even with the Dharma friends, there are when the conversation reached the point where the specific, some subtle, and something is involved with the subtlety in the subtle level. If the view you hold and the other hold are not agreeable and very different, in that case, you better keep quiet and not forced to convince others to accept your view or continue the conversation. Rather, just to the point and leave it alone until that person changed the mind or ready for the further conversation. That's probably the right approach. So anyway, just keep it in mind. Even within the Buddhist, we say keep it private or quiet, essentially in the situation that where is a public and in the sphere of public. So meaning that you go outside, you don't know who is who, right? And what they're thinking, what they're doing, and so you have no idea. But then, in order to prove and or to show off, and or to gain some kind of recognition, appreciation, get some other people's attention. Then, if you say that you are undertaking mind training, meditation, and or Dharma practice, and so on and so forth, that is what the text is to say. Is discourage you and said that you must keep your mentally that expanded infinitely. Keep expanding internally, but keep the size of your reach out or size of your let's say what you are doing and in the Dharma practice socially, you must remain very limited or small. Keep it very small and area, but as far as the internal and practice is concerned, and you must expand your relationship and or not relationship yet, it's expanded internally yourself. So that's what the key point. Anyway, that's as a Dharma practitioner, we must look at our status and the other status and then the situation and the conditions and then play out accordingly. That's what I think is the important point.
Okay, ja.
Thank you.
뭐 쳤을 게 뭐라. 너는 너 좋다. 뭐 쳤을 게면 그거 진짜 싫어. 난 강들 영화 공시소바 마르기노로와 나를 여기 오보다절 대마손 비스러간들 자매양지 세위지송 비르바근 천남지 예네르 비야는 일시소 랑기 즈진 도비란지 시저제위 정위 다귀 로위예제문보서시 야위담바여론전절 바른천족귀마저 차장냠벌저위선대라 냥지천보여르조바이 de de so worship Ji Yahweh Ma Shong Zhen Li La Zhe Shang Chu Lam Ji Re Bi Xiang Ta Du Nan Ji Ye La Hu De Xiang Yahweh Za Ba Rang De Zhong Ji Lang Zong Zhe Bei Ten Jian Zhe Xi Xiang Ga Jian Se Xi Me Dang Me Men Gen Cai Re Gan De Yahweh Nga Ba Yi Nan Da Lam Dan Zhe Wer Ma Yer Zhi Ta Ba Chou La Zhi Zhou Ci Zhen Zhe La Zuo Ba De Yi Te De Nan Ji Da De Zhou Xi Zha Xi Yang Zuo Shou Gen Jia Yer Ju Ma Ren Bu Chi Da So Nian Ge Ba Mei Tang Ji La Ka Zhen Chen Bu Gu Ni Ji Song Te Ke Song Te Ji Ngi Zhe Sa De So Bo Chi Ma Chi Ba Ne Chi Jer Chi Jie Wa Nian Ba Me Per Yang Gong Ni Gong De Pe Wer Shu Re Ra Wei Gur Wei Shang Keng Se Pan Dang De Wa Ma Lin Zhong Wei Ni Shan Zhi Zong Ten Zhe Jiang Su Zhe Be Sen De Bar De Tan Jer Qi Jia Be Ba Wu Zhi De Jian Ba Dang Gen De Zong Wu De Ang De Zhi Ji Se Da Lo Shang Ge Wa De Da Tam Zhi Rab De Ngu Di Sim Sha Bi Ya Wa Tam Zhi Yin Hu Wa Gang Lang Shu De Nga Ba Da Zhen Gi Wei Sa Wan De Gen Jiang Zong Wu Chu Shi Rab De Hu Er Ji Pan Din Zhong De Dan Ba Da Shang Ji Dan Zhen Jie Wu Tam Zhi Gen Li Zhen Gen La De Zhen Zhong Wei Ni Sang Ji Dan Ba Da De Yi Zhi Ju Cai Re Gen De Ya Wa Zong Ga Wei Tang Shu Xi Ni Neng Ni Sen Za Bi Wei Nga Bei Lang Zang De Nye Li Ka Chi Zang Yang Do Ber Ma Yi Ju Ni Mo De La Chen De La Ni Ma Gong Yang De哦呀，这是别的，怎么样？